Hello, Kent Jensen with KentCoach.com, LLC. So, as the Earth has completed another rotation around the sun, you can probably see it right behind me, leads people to contemplate and reflect on the year they've had and to make plans for the upcoming year. They want to change behaviors because they felt maybe they could do better for whatever reason. They want to create change. Now, this change, people often call New Year's resolutions. I call them goals. Now, the majority of people who set New Year's resolutions or goals, within 3 or 4 months from now, they will have abandoned those goals. If you don't believe me, go to the gym in January and then again in March or April. You'll notice a considerable difference. Now, why does somebody who obviously something positive like going to the gym, and they recognize it's a need in their life, they recognize they want to be more healthy, so they start in January, why don't they have the motivation to continue throughout the year? They have the motivation in January, but come March, April, that motivation is gone. Why is that? Well, first, we have to sit down and we have to analyze the source of the goal, the type of goal, and the motivation that comes associated with those types of goals, and how we test to see if we're going to have what it takes to complete our goals. So the types of goals that we impose upon ourselves, there are two main types. There's extrinsic goals, things like seeking wealth, fame, or self-image. And there's intrinsic goals, things like personal growth, things like building relationships and community involvement. So I know what you're saying. Going to the gym, wouldn't that fall under personal growth? Wouldn't somebody who wants to be healthier consider, intrinsic motivation? The answer is it can, and most likely it is not, because it comes from self-image. They have a negative concept of their self-image when they look at themselves in the mirror. They have a negative emotional reaction, which then leads them to compare themselves to others, which leads to emotional well-being being low, and leads to temporary motivation. It means you're going to start something, but you're not going to finish it because it's not an intrinsically motivated goal. It comes from the idea that society tells you should look a certain way, so you're trying to fit your body to society standards. So therefore, you're going to eventually lose motivation because it's not your goal. So, understanding that, then how can we understand how to create intrinsic goals versus extrinsic goals? How do I know that the goal I've set is intrinsically motivated and not some extrinsic goal? Okay. Comes down to two words, right? Integration versus interjection. Okay. Interjection is a value or a goal that somebody else has told me was important. They convinced me of the importance, and now I've accepted it. But deep down, this goal, this value, hasn't been holistically accepted by ourself. We don't view it, our subconscious does not view it as something that represents who we are. Okay? So in this instance, our person who went to the gym who falls off, the brain said, you're not doing this for us. You're doing this because society said that. I don't care. Whereas an integrated value, yourself, your subconscious wholly accepts it and views it as a representation, a holistic self-representation. This is called self-concordance. So your goals must be self-concordant. They must be a holistic representation of yourself. Now, if you do not know how to differentiate between an interjected value and an integrated value, then all you need to look at is the emotional reaction you feel when you don't accomplish it. Okay? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? Does it lead you to want to make changes that are permanent, or does it lead to temporary change? Now, there's values that are interjected that you may want to make integrated. And that's possible too. We can do that as well. But that's a complex process. It's not something you can just wake up January 1st and say, hey, this is what I am. This is what I want to represent. It takes self-examination. It takes mindfulness. It takes understanding and accepting yourself. I accept you. That's what I tell myself every day. I accept you. And then from there, it's simple. I set goals to create balance. Mind, heart, spirit, body. With these goals, create balance in my life, and more importantly, psychological well-being. Because what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Okay, so they've done studies, and they studied lawyers, right? They found a correlation with lawyers who are more money motivated. What they found in those law firms was higher use of alcohol, negative well-being, lower psychological satisfaction. Why is that? Because the importance is on money and not on an outcome. And money is not psychologically satisfying. Now, I know what you're saying. With money, you can do so much for your family, for whatever. And let me tell you, it's a fine line, okay? Because something like money can be extrinsically motivating, but also if you frame it correctly, it can be intrinsically motivating. Let me show you the difference. I want to make $10,000 next month. That's an extrinsic motivated. Why? Because all I said is money. Whereas this, I want to take my family on a vacation because I want to spend time with them and bond. But that vacation is going to cost me $10,000. See the difference? The money isn't the main purpose, the main focus. The money is a secondary thing that's going to allow you to achieve something that's better, that's intrinsically motivating. So you're going to have a feeling of psychological satisfaction in earning that $10,000 because it isn't the fact that you have the $10,000, it's what you're getting with the $10,000. See the difference? So it's a very tricky line. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to see if your goals are self-concordant. And trust me, society doesn't help. Turn on the TV, you're bombarded with commercials that appeal to the wealth, fame, and self-image. Every commercial. Why? Because that's our weakness. Why is that our weakness? Has this always been the case? Now, psychologists studied generations since World War II to decide, what's going on. And what they discovered is in the 3 generations past, there's been more and more importance on the extrinsic values as far as society is concerned than intrinsic values, the things I outlined earlier. So in other words, since World War II, our society has been driven towards materialism, towards being, how do I put this? Empty and vacuous almost. So once we realize that our environment is kind of pushing us towards something, and maybe it's not a great outcome, we can then stop it, right? Self-awareness is the first step in everything. Mindfulness, everything. So if you need help and you want to see if your goals are self-concordant and a holistic representation of yourself, comment below, reach out, email me, KJ@KentCoach, go to the website, KentCoach.com, and we can discover together if your goals are a holistic representation of you. And then from there, you will know whether or not you're going to accomplish these goals or not. Because at the end of the day, if it's not, you might accomplish it, but you're going to pay a price. The price is going to be psychological well-being. And you're going to pay that price in poor health, poor mental health. You're just not going to be happy. So what do you want? Do you want to be happy? Or do you want to follow society's values?